It's not so much about the call itself.
Honey, what are you thinking?
Good people of Capua. Was it Capua or Capua? Something like that. That was back in Spartacus. I just remember that. I was just about to start the podcast, and then I remembered that. So, how are all of you good folks doing? I hope everybody's having a bright, beautiful day or a nice, beautiful night, whichever works, right? And I got something to talk about today. It's about ladies who are asking, or ladies usually ask, or I've heard this question a couple of times. It's about men not calling or not calling back, or usually just calling. It goes something like this: Is calling on the phone so awful, or why do you men hate talking on the phone? Why do we hate talking on the phone? First, ask yourself, is it really that we hate talking on the phone? Not quite. It's not so much about talking itself. It's about that sometimes we just have everything planned out, and the phone call just means our plans get interrupted. I have things I need to do, and I need to cancel that and maybe postpone it for a while. So it's basically some sort of interruption, and most people don't like interruptions, especially if I have something I really gotta do, a deadline or something of the sort, and some people just don't understand that. So sometimes I just really need to get through something, and it might be the same time that the lady also really needs to vent out or to talk about something. So it's kind of a clash. Not a clash of the titans, just a clash. Not that huge, not that massive. So we love talking on the phone. Don't get us wrong. It's awesome. We love it. Also, sometimes it's just about the right topics. It depends on what we're talking about. I could talk with a fellow guy for minutes, but obviously, men kind of know. We know each other pretty well, so we will not take that long when we're communicating, and we leave more for later. Usually, we leave a lot more for the actual face-to-face conversation. I'll mention that also a little bit later. So when we are talking with a fellow guy, naturally we know each other pretty well. It's in our nature. We don't want to go for too long on a phone conversation. It might be a few minutes sometimes if we really have things to discuss. But in most cases, we don't go for that long. We don't have conversations going time, minutes after minutes, sometimes hours. But with the ladies, on the other hand, ladies can talk for hours on the phone. Usually, we tend to be straightforward, most of us, that is, and we don't meander and go into a lot of details about an related topic. All in all, our conversations with other guys rarely go into the 10-minute gap or boundary and over. Rarely do we have phone calls that go beyond 10 minutes. Sorry. I'm having a little bit of problem breathing. I just took a cold drink, icy cold. So it's kind of working me up, but it's alright. So all in all, conversations with other guys are rarely that long. But when it comes to the conversations with ladies, it translates to something that tends to go a little bit longer, kind of making us uncomfortable. So unless he's directing me somewhere and I need him, let's say a man calls me, unless he's actually telling me or giving me directions to a place I need to get to, in that case I need to have him on call. Like, we need to be in constant communication. Basically, he can't hang up and I can't hang up. If that's not the case, we rarely have such long conversations. Ladies go, the conversation goes everywhere. I mean, ladies have brilliant minds that are bright with ideas and stories. Ours are a little dull, only feeble lights with several bursts of brightness. So we don't really have much going on. When we are at the middle of communicating, we tend to just give out the most important points before the dullness and settles in again. At which point we are just about closing. We're giving the final points, and then it's all right. See you then. Small talk a little bit should be. Small talk should be just that, small talk. That's why guys rarely have small talk. It might be a joke or two. In the middle, at the start, or at the finish, or basically at the end of the conversation. We might end it on a light note, but we rarely have a lot of it, because if we know that if it's small talk, it's supposed to be just that. It shouldn't extend to extra minutes or something of the sort. We want The conversation, if it's over, it's over. We won't keep going ahead. And it's just like that. So, moving on. The topics usually really matter a lot. If I'm having a conversation with other men, it's something I'm interested in. So we might go at it for a while, and still we won't do it for that long. So, and sometimes it's just a matter of passing a message like, hey, we're meeting on Friday, or a friend has a wedding, or we need to meet up to arrange this and that. Ladies, however, the conversation might go like, it might be something like several cases about maybe something about other people, maybe one of your girlfriends or one of your aunties who's been acting up in our marriage. Not the kind of stuff we want to be talking about. Oh, we don't have a problem talking about it for a few minutes, but once we don't, that's not the kind of topic we want to be engaged in for hours, or 40 minutes, 50 minutes about your auntie and all that. And it turns out that if I'm just listening, and I don't have a problem with that. But when you expect me to chip in and I don't really have much to say about her or about the other person, if you need my advice, no problem. But sometimes there's just nothing much I can add on to that. And that makes me a little bit uncomfortable. I don't want to be in such a conversation for hours or 20, 30, 40 minutes. Moving on. Sometimes we're just busy. I mean, I have something to do, which is usually almost all the time. So I just can't afford a long phone call. And when I know I have things I haven't done, there's always something glaring at me. It's basically just seated there glaring at me like, hey, you got stuff to do whenever you're ready. So that's not the best kind of feeling. We don't like a monkey on our shoulders or on our backs, feeling like there's something we haven't done and we need to do it. It's like we can't just see clearly unless we're done with that. It feels like something we really need to take care of first, and then we can focus on something else. Our eyes are glazy. We can't see too well unless we're done with that. I hope you got that. And moving on. If you just started dating, he just might not be that interested in you. When we're interested in somebody, or when I'm interested in somebody, I can talk with them for hours on the phone, given I have no pressing matters. Again, if I have something I need to do, no matter how much I love you, no matter how much I like you, we still have things we need to get done. So it doesn't really affect it that much. But if I'm interested, let's say we just started dating, and I have enough time at my hands, I'll make sure that we talk. We go for hours, especially at night. Given if I was just relaxing, then yes, of course. Maybe I was just watching some TV. I've got some snacks. We can chat the night away. Sometimes even part of the day. It's not a problem, but only if I don't have any pressing matter or something that really commands my attention. This usually happens on days on the days that I have time. I have days off. Other days it's just too heated up to even fathom or entertain the idea of a long phone conversation. It's not that I don't like the person or I don't appreciate them. No, it's just that I really can't carve out the time. And that I can give them enough attention and listen in and contribute and all of that. Next point. Some phone calls just have no content. Let me put it this way. It's like walking through a mansion with empty rooms, all that space, empty rooms, empty spaces, and being told to describe it. Like you push me in one of those rooms and tell me, describe it. All right, they're empty, or it's empty. Some of the rooms are big, some are small. This particular room, it's probably, let's say it's big, empty, gray walls, nothing else, no furniture, no nothing. So now imagine being told to talk about such a room for like 30 minutes. I mean, there's no content. Ladies can go on and on about anything, just about anything, for about 20 to 30 minutes, but we just don't know how to contribute apart from the typical, I get that. whoa, really? Oh, she did that, he did that. But it gets to a point, it gets to a point the lady kind of thinks that I'm not paying enough attention. She might ask, are you even listening? I'm like, yeah, I mean, I've been holding on to dear life with this phone for those minutes, the equivalence of soft conversational mental torment. Well, not always, it's not always mental torment to talk to you, but it will not, but sometimes it kind of feels like it. Because you're asking me, I mean, you brought up the conversation, but midway, you're leaving me dry. Like, hey, what do you think? I can obviously give you, suggest or say what I think. But in some cases, when you call and then you just leave it out there for me, I'm like, are we done? Is the conversation over? I mean, the silence. I don't know how to react to that. I can't just jump right in and say, oh, whatever, because whatever you want me to keep talking about, I just don't have words for it. There's nothing more to talk about. But yet you expect me to go on about it for 30, 45 minutes. But I just don't know it. It's the gray room again. Nothing much to describe about it. Maybe the floor, maybe the walls, a little dry, flaky paint, maybe the well painted or something. Maybe a nice glass door. But telling me to describe the walls for that long, I really don't have anything to say to that. No matter how much time I have to talk or have the conversation. And moving on, sometimes it depends on the people around me or the environment I find myself in. If I'm at a place where I'm comfortable enough to talk freely, I'll definitely do it. We can talk and talk and talk. Excuse me. But if I might want to say everything, including all the that cold drink is working its magic on me. Back to the point. If we're talking freely, if I'm comfortable enough, I'll be talking freely. But sometimes I might want to say something, including all the naughty stuff, but the people around me or the environment around me just won't allow it. So I'll not be comfortable enough to keep talking. And that's why sometimes we say, can I call you back? So you shouldn't always take that negatively. I'm not putting it off. I'm just putting it until the time I know we can actually communicate. Because at that point, unless it's an emergency, at which point I'll run out and get a place to talk to you. If it's not, usually I just can't walk out. I need to be there probably for the time being until I get enough time. Then I can call them. We can go on with the conversation. And these are the times, there are times the conversation, if we're talking and I kind of sound a little formal, like I'm not playing around or saying the things I'd normally be saying, usually just means maybe the kind of people I'm around. I might still drop in there, of course, the usual, I love you, or honey, I love you, or love you, baby. That's all right, no matter who I'm around. Of course, I'm probably not in a meeting. I wouldn't be doing that in a meeting, but that's just as far as I'm willing to go at such a time. So it's always good to understand that maybe it's the people who are around me, or the people I'm around, or the environment, which does not allow me to have a nice long conversation, but to give you the required amount of attention. So it's not about not wanting a phone call. It's the environment I'm in, or the people I'm around. Moving on. Sometimes I just want to call when I'm settled down, even if it's just a little bit, so I can pay enough attention. I know, and most ladies know that some men, or most of us to a certain degree, we are not good at multitasking, and we don't want to mess up now. I mean, we don't want to mess up, you know that. If I'm multitasking and I'm doing some really tough job, some really tough work, I'm at work, you know how that could end up. Like, I could really do some really messed up stuff. I could do the wrong thing, and we don't want that happening. So sometimes I just choose to keep you on hold, or actually not keep you on hold. I just let you know, let me do this in a few minutes. Let's do this in a few more minutes. Maybe I'll take a break for lunch or for a drink or for coffee or something, so we can talk at that time. Unless, of course, it's an emergency, in which point you just let me know, I'm sorry, it's an emergency. Sometimes I can even pick it up from your tone, and I have to just drop everything I'm doing. But if it's not, if it can wait, no problem. We can just wait until later. And I hope the ladies get that. Again, it's not always that we don't like phone calls. Sometimes we don't want them, and I've explained it before. I've explained it in the previous few points. So, moving on. Another reason we might not be that interested in phone calls is we tend to quite prefer face-to-face conversation, especially if it's going to be a long story or a long conversation. If I'm doing chores, laundry, cooking, something of the sort, it's pretty easy to have a conversation. I don't have to hold the phone on my ears. I could just place it on a speaker or have an earpiece and go through the whole conversation with you without fretting. Because I'm still working, I'm still taking care of whatever I need to be taking care of. As long as it doesn't require mental acuity, like I don't have to be at work. If I'm at work, I might not be able to just walk around while working. However, remember, tasks that require my concentration or my full focus mentally, in such a case, I'd rather finish the work first, and then we can have the conversation. And if we live together, I'd rather we have the conversation when I get home or when you get home. Sometimes you can't wait that long, and sometimes I can't wait that long, and we can always grab some time. Maybe I can step out for a minute, out of the office, out of whatever I might be. But always remember that sometimes it's not a problem with the phone call. It's just that hopefully, if it's something that I'm hoping, if it can wait, we can always have it on a face-to-face basis. Maybe meet over lunch. If not, we can always meet back at home. Remember, most of us tend to be visual creatures. So talking to you while you're actually there in person means more to us. Just not when some guys are, hopefully he's the man. He's not just playing video games or maybe keen watching a movie. At least should be when he's paying attention to you. Especially face to face, there's no excuse. If I've set apart some time and we are actually there in person, both of us, of course, that's the best time for us to talk. I'm paying attention to everything you're saying and doing, and at that point we can listen for hours. It's also because we are good at picking up on physical cues. Because when I'm with you, I can watch you. I know what you're going through. I can take in some of that by being there with you rather than having to guess. Because if it's over the phone, I can't see you. I don't know what you're going through. So yeah, there's a lot of guesswork over the phone. So sometimes I just prefer face-to-face rather than a phone call. Remember, we love talking to you, just that sometimes it's the most inopportune moment when I have something to do. Again, let me repeat that. Don't get it wrong. We love talking to you. We do. Just that sometimes it's not the right moment, or it's just not the right time to be having the phone call or the conversation. All right. There's some loud bikes. From my point of view, if I call, I have something to tell you or to say to you. I don't go leaving you hanging and waiting for you to come up with something or to fill in the gaps or to come up with something interesting as well. But when the ladies call, not all ladies, sometimes when the ladies call, it's sometimes a 2-minute meaningful call. Sometimes just checking in, and instead of ending it there until probably a later time, there's nothing else. I mean, if we have nothing else to talk about after checking up on me, or sometimes I call up to check up on you, and after I know you're doing great, we just hang up and go on later, and then I can call you back. But with the ladies, sometimes there's anything else, and you just drop it off, and you expect me to come up with something else, just like I mentioned before. We don't. That's part of the reason we tend to avoid phone conversations. If I had something to call, believe me, I definitely would call. But if you called, I know you have something. Maybe you're just saying hi, or maybe you have something to talk about. So keep going, and if there's nothing else, well, let's just hang up and go on later. But please don't just go silent for seconds of crazy, weird silence. Well, maybe you're expecting me to bring up something else, but and driving my brain into quantum idea generation mode to keep it going, to keep the conversation going. I'll just probably hang up until later, right? Well, of course, I won't just hang up out of nowhere. I'll just say, oh, all right, I'll catch you later. Yeah, then hang up. It's easier with men. If I'm having a conversation, I say, all right, I'll catch you later. But same thing with some ladies, but sometimes you might just throw me out there like, all right, come up with something else. I'm like, no, that's not the way it should be going. If you're done with the reason you called me, no problem. We can do it at a later moment when I have something to share, when you have something else, rather than the awkward, ongoing silence. We don't like that. That's part of the reason we might end up avoiding a phone call. Moving on. If you are talking about a man not wanting to call or talk over the phone, maybe after a fling, maybe you just had a short fling, it was your first time. I'm not talking about people who've been in a relationship in this case. In this particular point, I'm talking about guys who maybe just had a fling. So maybe he's just busy, a bit held up and planning to call. Or two, maybe I just had fun and I don't want to go any further with that. Right? Let me say that again. If we just had a fling, we've not been dating, we don't know each other, there are two reasons why I might not want to call. Number one, I might be busy, a little bit held up, and I'm planning to call later. Or number two, I'm just not interested. I don't want to take it any further than that. And if you call, there are a few ways to approach this and to find out which one it is, what's the case in these matters. So number one, if you call and you can call a second time and he still sounds disinterested, give him a few days. Give him let's say 2 days. I mean, you've called, we hanged out, maybe we had a fling today. So we talked and we left. I didn't call back. You called, we talked a little bit, or maybe I never picked up. So you call again tomorrow. I pick up, or maybe sound disinterested. No problem. You just can't assume that I'm not interested, which might be the case, but what you do, give it at least 2 days and call back. This time, listen to my tone. Any man worth anything will from this point show you where he lies. If interested, he'll feel bad about letting you call twice without him doing it, without him calling you back. And regardless of how busy, he'll make it a point to call you later. Regardless of how busy he is, regardless of how busy I am. I mean, you've called me probably 3 times, and it was nothing crazy, not like, hey, why'd you call me back? And not like 10, 15 missed calls just once or twice. And then you took some time, you called back, and then you waited at least 2 days. You were giving me enough time to get myself together. So I'll probably call back after that. And but if he doesn't call back after that, well, he's just probably not interested. That's unless he fell into a ditch or got into some form of trouble and can't access his phone or can't call, or he's in jail. Yeah, that's probably the only reason. Apart from that, he's probably just sending you the message. He's not interested. He got what he wanted, and he's just not there for anything else. So, and this is basically his best way of showing you to just let him be and to just stay away. So at this point, you've done your best. So no problem, just move on. If anything changes or he decides to maybe, if he got interested or something happens, no problem, he'll just call back. If not, you already know, you did everything you could have. You gave him the time, you called back, he didn't call. That's it. That's all you needed to do. Moving on. If you're not dating and you just met the guy, had a nice conversation, and maybe you changed numbers, you exchanged your phone numbers, but he's not calling, right? Follow the steps I mentioned before. Even though you guys just met, exchanged numbers, and he hasn't called back, or he hasn't called, definitely. Usually, sometimes guys call first, but that's not always the case. Sometimes I might be a little bit busy, so you can always call. Hey, I didn't hear from you, so I thought I should call first. So it's not a problem. Most of us don't Don't let people tell you, oh, you're acting too needy. No, you're just calling to find out if the other person is alright. You're just being a mature person. It has nothing to do with games and acting, not acting like this or acting like that, or not wanting him to think you're needy or that you like him. No, you're just finding out. And then follow the steps we mentioned before. If he acts disinterested, just no problem. Maybe he's busy. You can call back again. If still not interested, give him 2 more days. Try back one last time. If he's still the same and he doesn't call back, if he promises to call and he never calls, he's probably just sending you a message that he's not interested, right? At that point, unless he actually let you know, oh, I'm so sorry, I was caught up. Maybe a doctor, I was in the surgeon, maybe I was in the theater or something of the sort. If it has nothing to do with that, just move on, because you know he's probably not interested. Yeah. All right, moving on. I mentioned if it was me, I wouldn't forget to call. Like, if I was interested, I wouldn't forget to call almost after a whole week. Especially if I was interested. Men, when they're interested in a lady, they don't forget to call for that long. No way. It wouldn't go for. I still have you in my mind. It's still fresh. So if I'm not doing it, I'm probably just trying to cut it short in the most polite way I can. So, disinterested. Yeah. Moving on. If your phone calls tend to be negative, he'll not be that interested in calling or receiving your calls. This rarely happens, especially to couples. This doesn't happen with couples because they're used to each other. This mostly maybe guys who are just starting out, but they haven't been dating for that long, or they haven't even started dating. They're still getting to know each other. In my own personal experience, I had a friend, a girl. We weren't dating, she was just a friend. And she was always up to usually something negative. So she'd just bring a lot of negativity. But until it reached a point, I just stopped picking her calls altogether. It was always, you promised you'd do this, things I hadn't done for her, things she wanted me to do, or it was always something about something else. And it became a little too much, especially since I had a long-term girlfriend and she wasn't dating anybody, so she couldn't understand that I had someone else to please. I had a girlfriend, so I just couldn't pay her the level or amount of attention she expected from me. We were friends, but I had a girlfriend. She just couldn't get that, so all that negativity became a little too much. So just don't be negative. Shouldn't always be nagging and complaining and all whining. You shouldn't take that approach. If you're not happy about something, just let him know. Oh, are you not calling? It's been a while, something like that. And you should know him better. If that's just who he is, you already know him. And I don't see why he should really, unless he's that kind of a guy, I don't see why he should have such a huge problem calling you once in a while. Even if it's once in 2 days, maybe in the meantime you guys are texting, you're keeping in touch, or having a small phone call, like 1 minute, 2 minute conversation, just getting to know how you are or how you're doing. That shouldn't be a problem for most guys. Sometimes we just don't want the 2 hour, 1 hour weird. By weird, I mean where the pause is silent, you don't know, like it's almost like you ran out of material. And so I'm like, if you ran out of whatever you wanted to communicate, it's all right. We just hang up and then later on we can continue. We don't have to force it. We just don't want that weird call, the weird phone calls. Yeah. So moving on. Sometimes we just opt for texting because it's both quick and just a text. And I can factor it in even when I'm held up, when I'm busy. It's convenient. And it gets the message across. Like calls, however, phone calls are for when I have something that carries a certain emotional aspect to it, and I need to relay that in my voice. I need you to get the message, and I need you to get the emotion behind it in a way that texting and emojis just cannot. There's something I might need to tell you, that sending it in a text, even with all the emojis we have, I couldn't quite relay the message properly, so I'd rather just make a phone call. It might not be hours and hours worth of a phone call, but usually just a couple of minutes. So sometimes we just might opt for texting. Yeah, it's not always that we're avoiding a call. It's just that sometimes we find texting a little bit convenient, depending on where we are or who we are with, or the things I have to do. However, I'll still not be keeping. If I call, I'm planning probably not to keep you on the phone for hours. Probably just a few minutes. Let you know what's going on, and then hopefully trying to arrange so that we can have a real face-to-face conversation, so I can explain everything much better, hopefully. Usually that's what we do. And moving on, if the phone calls are before that, sometimes if I know how the phone call, how long it might be, I wouldn't have a problem picking up and talking through that time. Sometimes, like I mentioned, the problem is not knowing how long a phone call might last. We don't want it going for hours and hours, especially if it's the weird one I mentioned before. If it's that kind of weird call, we don't want that. If it's a typical conversation, and I know we will probably be talking for maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes, I'm all in. 30 minutes, no problem. But I know how long it takes. Like, if I know how long it takes with you, you let me know, oh, I need to talk to you for maybe 30 minutes. I need to talk to you for maybe an hour. That lets me know how much time I need to set apart. And it's even better because I'll make sure there are no interruptions. I'll set up the time. Regardless of what time we'll decide to have the phone call, I'll make sure it's not interrupted. I'll set up enough time. You'll have me there. I'm not interrupting. I'll be paying full attention, so to say. So sometimes it's good knowing how long the phone conversation might last, or how long you're planning for us to have the conversation. Maybe it's just a fear of the unknown. When we don't know, we don't want to get into something we don't know how long it might take. Not knowing how long the call might go on, it's a little bit unnerving, especially if I have things to do. Whether or not I have things to do, I mean, we always have something to do, even if it's just relaxing, reading a book or catching a movie or finishing up on something. So knowing how long the phone might take is pretty awesome. If you say 30 minutes, 20 minutes, I'll clear up everything I'm doing, no sweat. But with no plan, especially when the phone call has the potential and an unlimited possibility of going on for hours, maybe I'd rather not have it. Maybe I'd just rather not. Yeah. And moving on. If the phone calls are sequential and just about life and what's going on, I just don't want to do it. I might do it, but I'll do it half-heartedly because I have to for you. Because I have to do it for you. I just don't get how after every hour, sequential, I mean, one call after another. If you're filling me in on something that's happening or going on around you, great. But if it's one of those weird conversations that typically lead nowhere, or you just communicate something and then you have nothing else to say and we're just out there in silence, like in darkness, that one doesn't sound too cool. That's what we tend to avoid. So if there's something worth talking about for 2 hours, occasionally something happens and we need to fill each other in, so no problem. Yeah, but that's not every other hour, and it shouldn't. The phone itself, if we're doing sequential, so many phone calls, one after another, they themselves shouldn't last for hours. Of course, unless, just like I mentioned, unless you're filling me in on something that's going on. I tend to keep up with my girlfriend. It might be every other hour or every other couple of hours, but the conversations don't go for hours themselves because we've got stuff to do. So I might call every other hour, hey, how's everything going on? All right, I just did this, I just did that. And I might say, oh, I just finished this and that. All right, hang up. Then I call back again and fill in on what's going on, or something happened. Maybe something interesting happened. It doesn't always have to be something interesting. Something could have happened that I feel the urge to fill her in or to let her know. Or same thing with her. So try to keep it at a good amount of time, not taking up too much time, especially if the other person might be involved in something else. They might be busy or working. Yeah, that way we can have more conversations that are less in terms of the time we spend on it. Moving on, sometimes some guys are just nervous, anxious, maybe they're anxious about something, maybe a new job or a meeting or an appointment. So any phone call might just rub us the long way. It might rub us the long way. Don't take it like wrong if he's not interested in picking up a call or having a conversation. It's just momentarily before we get back to our normal phone calling selves. If I have something that's kind of unnerving me, I might not really be up to talking for a long time, let alone even picking up a call, because my brain is working extra to keep me calm and hopefully to handle whatever I have planned ahead. So it might not always have anything to do with avoiding phone calls. It's just that I have something going on, or I have something planned that's currently taking away the peace from me, my peace of mind. So sometimes just need a little bit of time until we're done with whatever we're doing. Maybe we have a deal on the table and we need to finish that first. And then we go out for drinks and have fun and call as much as we need to. I mean, life goes back to normal. And last but not least, not all men are confident enough to hold a conversation. Yeah, there are those of us who don't have a problem. We can keep talking. We're confident in ourselves. We have nothing to fear. We're not afraid of making mistakes or all of that. But usually this happens to most men when they're at the start of the conversation. Not all men are confident enough to hold a conversation, phone conversation, that is. Some of us are shy, maybe even afraid of sounding weird, dorky, or messing up. Because some of us are trying to have a good conversation with you, to impress you, probably. So he might not trust himself or his ability to communicate effectively. Remember, there are also some guys who have maybe some sort of impairment that might keep him from communicating as well as he wants to. Some guys stammer, some guys stutter, and so on. So some of them might opt to text, or maybe find it better to have a one-on-one meeting just to make sure you're comfortable with who they are. And then in the future, they won't have a problem communicating. However, if you guys have been dating for a while, then you already know the situation beforehand, and there's no reason for him to be afraid of the whichever problem he might be having. If it's stuttering, you already know that, so it shouldn't necessarily be a problem for him, because you already know it. And obviously, if you guys are dating, you're okay with it, right? Yeah, that's it. And up to that point, I hope you got everything you needed from that, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.